but that's going to cause an identity crisis. So what if you don't make certain things your entire fucking identity? I mean, non-monogamous, I made part of my identity so hard that I think I lost a relationship that could have still been non-monogamous in a different way, but I lost it because I felt I was grasping onto an identity marker as opposed to a way I was doing relationships. And yeah, I don't know, that it just that broke me real bad, because I think back to one conversation we had where she expressed a certain way, maybe we could do it this way, and I was so resistant to it because again, I wasn't collaborating on how to tackle a relationship model. I was grasping onto an identity that I really didn't fucking have to, and I lost the one, like the one person where I go like, that's one person I really shouldn't lose.
Welcome to Normalizing Non-Monogamy, the podcast where we interview incredible people from all over the world to hear their personal journeys of self-discovery through the lenses of love, sex, and relationships.
Our mission is to show people that they're not alone and to inspire them to embrace their true selves so that together we can open minds and live authentically without shame.
We believe everyone's story is powerful and beautiful, yet it's important to remember that everyone does life a little bit differently and that the views and opinions expressed by our guests do not necessarily reflect our own.
Additionally, we aren't doctors. Please consult a medical professional for anything regarding your health that you might learn about on the show. Enjoy!
Well, welcome to episode 348. We're Finn and Emma, and today we have a wonderful conversation with Billy Procida. Billy is the host of the Manwhore podcast for over a decade, and he's also a New York City-based comedian. He's explored non-monogamy in different forms throughout his life. He says, as you'll see, he shares that he had one monogamous stint back in college for about 14 months, but then other than that has been exploring non-monogamous relationships.
Yeah, this conversation is really amazing, and I just a ton of gratitude to Billy for, I mean, first of all, for the work that he does, and hosting a podcast for over a decade is no small feat. So
no, not at all.
That is huge, and yeah, his work as a comedian, and by the way, some of his stand-up, he does naked stand-up. So yeah, more information is in the podcast show notes. You can find links to all of Billy's work and Billy's podcast at manwhorepod.com. Again, links are in the show notes. I also highly recommend heading over to the show notes to check out those links, because if you scroll all the way down where we have photos of our guests, Billy sent some hella amazing photos in. So you're going to want to check those out. They are in true sort of flavor of this conversation. So maybe one more just quick thought about this conversation is, as Billy mentions, he's a comedian. And yet a lot of this conversation sort of ebbs and flows, or it's a bit of a ride through some emotional stuff and the sort of his experience navigating dating and relationships and love in one of the biggest cities on earth, and what that meant as a sort of a solo man going through that journey, and all of the different messaging he got and the lessons he took away from that. And just is a great conversation. So you're going to laugh a bit. You're going to find a ton of deep moments, and even some maybe ones that are a little gross towards the end. Foreshadowing to those bloopers. So maybe gross is a strong word. Maybe
uncomfortable.
Yes. Lean into the discomfort. So again, thank you, Billy, for everything you do, for coming on the show, and for sharing your story with us.
Yes. As a reminder, you can find links to everything that Billy does and talks about in our podcast show notes.
Over at normalizingnonmonogamy.com. Click on the podcast tab or in your podcast player. Down below, there are direct links.
For anyone who's a premium subscriber, we will jump into the interview with Billy right now. And for anyone else, we do have a couple of announcements. First up, if you're not familiar with the premium subscription, you hear us talk about it every week. It's a way to skip these announcements up front, but don't worry, you still get them in the outro. To sign up, go to our website, normalizingnonmonogamy.com, scroll down on the homepage, and you can sign up right there.
Next up, we want to remind you all that we are very quickly approaching the Non-Monogamy Week of Visibility.
Woohoo! Next week,
which will be July 15th to the 21st. This is a week put aside by the
organization for polyamory and ethical non-monogamy that's open. We interviewed the founder of Open, Brett, a few weeks back. You can find links in your show notes. I don't remember the number off the top of my head, so I'm not even going to try. But amazing organization and amazing week coming up of tons of different events and activities going on. Please check out weekofvisibility.com for more information. Links again in the show notes. But very specifically, there's one event we don't want you to miss.
We are hosting a workshop called Is There a Right Way to Do Non-Monogamy? This is going to be on Wednesday, July 17th at 5 p.m. Pacific. You can sign up. It's free. It's free. It's a free workshop, virtual.
Squirrel moment there.
Yes, I forgot to mention that. It's a free virtual workshop. Come join us to sign up. Again, go to our website, normalizingnonmonogamy.com. There is a big banner at the top of the website. You can sign up right there.
Yeah, and just a quick note about that banner. That's going to redirect you to a website/app called Plura. Plura is an amazing community building app for tons and tons of sex-positive events all over the country. So just wanted to let you know that's where you're going to get redirected to. It's free to sign up, free to join the app, free to join the workshop. And you will see as you do, there are tons of events that you are going to want to check out all over the country.
Well, you are on our website. You can go and check out the community tab. You also hear us talk about this every week. We have a virtual community that we love, and it's full of amazing people supporting each other every single day. We are also hosting an in-person community retreat September 13th to the 15th of this year, 2024, in the San Francisco Bay Area. We are super excited about this weekend and in-person gathering for the community. You can find out more on that community tab, and we would love to have you come join us.
Yes, and just to be clear, the in-person retreat is only for people who are in the virtual community. So to join the in-person, you need to join the virtual, but it really works out well for you because then you get to meet all of these amazing people for the next couple months leading up to the event. And then you land here, you know a bunch of people, and it's going to be even better for you.
Yes.
So check that out. Again, normalizingnonmonogamy.com. Click on the community tab. All of the information is there, or send us an email if you need to.
And finally, our favorite way to get tested for STIs, it is stdcheck.com. You hear us talk about that too every single week. You hear us talk about a lot every single week, but
only the things we love.
Yes, and we love stdcheck.com. It is really, why are you laughing?
No, it's just the most amazing infomercial. We have no script. We're making this up as we go, but it sounds like we're totally reading a teleprompter.
That's true, but we do.
We do. I know we do. You just said it very much like an infomercial person. So
I'm working on those skills.
Set it and forget it.
Yes. Anyway, STD Check is a really discreet way to get tested for STIs. I'll go back to my infomercial. It is a really discreet way to get tested for STIs. It is really simple and efficient. And by using the links on the resources tab of our website, you support the podcast. Thank you so much. And you get $10 off, making a 10-panel test only $129. And best of all, you get to know your sexual health status. That's a lot.
That's a lot.
Did I finish my infomercial?
Yes. But wait, there's more.
There's more.
If you want to reach out to us, which we would love for you to do, you can find the information on the Contact Us tab. Send us an email, send us a voicemail. We'd love to hear from you. Also, Miche is a friend of ours, friend of the show. You have seen her on this show a few times. Her and I do a monthly Ask Us Anything episode. We would love to get your questions. So send them in there the same way you would send us any other voicemail. Send us a question and we will answer it on our Ask Us Anything. This month, we have a special topic-based Ask Us Anything, and we're talking about compersion, and we have a special guest, Dr. Marie Tuin, coming to join us. So send us your compersion questions, and we will get you some compersion answers.
Yes.
That's our promise to you.
And you can send them over on the Contact Us page of our website. And with that, do you have anything else?
Let's go talk to Billy.
Let's go.
Welcome to the show, Billy. We are super excited to talk to you today. It's actually funny. We were talking about this earlier. We've been swimming in the same podcast pool in many ways for years and have never crossed paths. So it's fun to finally cross paths and meet you. So welcome.
Likewise. Yes. Nice to finally meet y'all too.
We'd love for you to start just by introducing yourself.
Yeah, I'm Billy Presida. I host a show called the Manwhore Podcast, Sex Positive Conversations. I'm also a stand-up comedian out here in New York City, and I also run a monthly naked comedy show in Brooklyn that people seem to enjoy.
That is amazing. We've done naked karaoke once. I think naked anything in front of a large group of people is a new level of vulnerability. So good for you.
Yes.
So let's maybe dig into relationship stuff, and maybe one fun place to start with would be how about around the name of your show? And we kind of talked about this or a few minutes ago before we hit record that you are not the Man Whore, but you host the Man Whore podcast. And so maybe is that a good place to start to sort of talk a little bit about what relationships look like for you today, and then maybe we kind of figure out how we got here.
Sure. And I'll even start with just a hint, at least, of the how we got here. So yeah, I host a show called the Manwhore Podcast, and it's titled that one because it stands out in a list of podcast names. I was told.
Yep.
I was told it's catchy, but also, I had this. I started the show 10 years ago, talking to women I'd hooked up with about why we didn't work out, I had this problem where women would sleep with me, but they wouldn't date me, which I know doesn't sound like a problem, but for me, it was a problem because I wanted like a relationship. I wanted love. I wanted cuddles. I wanted hand holding and fun sex. But since I was like 19, anytime I want to escalate, it was always the chick who told me, oh, I just want to keep it super casual. And then now on top, and normally I feel like when people express like really intense feelings, and they're not fully requited, then it's like, okay, well then we split ways. But these women were like, no, but you're still gonna come over, do that thing with your tongue I like, but just keep your emotions to yourself. And it would just happen over and over again. So when it happened for the umpteenth time, I thought, all right, like let's ask them directly. And I had a few women kind of call me a man whore just because I'd been really sexually experienced at that point. I wasn't really shy about my sexual history. If people asked me a question, I didn't know I was supposed to like lie or fib or do some sort of mathematical equation with my quote unquote number, right? I didn't know that was part of it. I'm just pretty straightforward. And so, I had experimented with experiences on Craigslist, and I had a decent amount of sex and lovers, and so sometimes they playfully go like, "Oh my God, you're such a man whore. Oh my God, you're so slutty, whatever." And I was getting to a point where when I was 23, 24, I was getting nervous that am I like too slutty to love? Have I made too many sexual decisions that now like I can't be loved by a decent woman or whatever? So that's kind of part of the origin of like the title of the show, which and I told y'all, asked, hey, is there anything off limits? And nothing came to mind, but I do, when people ask, I will let them know, hey, please don't call me the man whore. Like it wasn't like this fun name to be called. It was this name that I felt like they were saying, oh my God, it's great that you have a lot of sex, because like I'm not gonna date you. So at least you have all that sex to lie back on, but that's not always enough. I see a lot of dudes, especially like kind of the incel guys, they complain about, not getting laid enough or whatever. And I go, yo, like sex is not going to make you happy. I have a lot of sex. I'm still a sad clown. Like it's not the answer. It's just, the next morning, it feels great for like a half hour afterwards. And then it does wear off. So yeah, that's kind of like the origin story, at least with the podcast. Yeah.
I think it's really powerful that what comes off as like a kitschy, oh, you're a man whore, and the world looks in and goes, oh, this guy's just getting laid left and right, and in the inside you're going, but that's not what I was looking for. Like, I mean, sure, that was.
It's fun and everything.
It's not a bad consolation prize.
No.
Let's be clear there real quick.
Sure.
There are people worse off than me, but it's, wasn't what I was looking for.
Right. Yeah. And so I also think it's a lot of, I give you just a ton of props and credit to be able to be like, well, let's actually talk about what happened here, right? Instead of saying, okay, this person came, we had an experience, we had a great time, and then they said, okay, I'm not really interested. And most people, like you said, they just pack it and go, okay, well, just never talk to them again. But to be able to get to a place where you're like, well, what the hell actually happened? Like, that's a pretty amazing, nuanced place to be, to say like, well, what's really going on here for you? What's really going on for me? And to be able to talk about it.
Yeah, it's like I told you I love you and you said no, but kept, you still want to bang. Like that's, I don't know, like cut me loose.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Right.
Mhm.
Right. Yeah. It's a big shift. Well, I'm curious what was like your sort of lead up to that point, right? To the point where you start having all these experiences, but they're not really going the way you want. Did you have examples that came before you or role models that sort of showed you a path of what relationships were supposed to look like? Or where did your sort of vision of what you wanted come from?
I mean, I'm kind of like a hopeless romantic. I watched a lot of movies and TV in the 90s and 2000s, and so I have like a real romanticized view of relationships and love and all that. So I've always just been more like authenticity driven, connection driven. I'm not looking for. I think these things are important when we talk about compatibility. Like, what do you want in life? Where do you want to be living? Do you want to have kids? Whether you want to be monogamous or not, what if you're doing non-monogamy, what type? Those are important, but I never kind of tackle dating from the let me go search for these check boxes first. I was always just looking for people I connected with, and then let's take a look at let's size things up and compare and contrast. So yeah, I've just always been really into like if the connection is strong and that intangible quality, that energy that's happening between us, no one can really quantify or explain. That was always what I've been looking for. Maybe
Yeah.
that's a little bit of a dopamine junkie in me. I don't know. I've been lately pondering the concept of like, does a dimmer flame last longer?
Mm.
But I was always looking more for the kind of connections,
Mhm.
chemistry.
Mhm.
But I never really had like too much like I was looking at for role models. I think I just like took in these romanticized storylines to give
Yeah.
me an idea of like how relationships should be. And then on the other side was most of my friends, growing in high school and college were chicks. So I would hear them and I would listen to them. And these weren't women I was like trying to sleep with. I mean, like the first week of welcome week freshman year, yes, like we were all kind of like, oh, and then after that, it was okay, that's not happening, and then we became a crew, and so, but like I would hear them talk. Sometimes I'll hear dudes say certain things, and it almost screams like, "Oh, you don't have women friends. Like you weren't like you have women you hang out with in a large group. You have chick acquaintances, but you don't have women in your life who tell you what's really up." The amount of mattresses on the floor in New York City among men, I think right there shows you not a lot of dudes got women friends. Otherwise, they'd know mattress does not go on the floor. Towels are required. I will still stand for navy blue sheets. I think that's a little too much to ask of us, but you get the idea. Most of the things I've learned about what to do better is because I listen to women complain about the other guys.
Yep. Yeah.
Noted there. I can take that piece in.
Yeah, the amount of times I would hear like female comedians joke growing up about men who don't eat pussy. So in my head, I was like, I guess I'm supposed to eat pussy. Like crazy idea.
Yeah. It's interesting you talking about this, Billy, because I hear a lot of me in this, and what I have done over the years is something very similar. I just like move through the world collecting all of the inputs of like, this is good, this is, and I do like in a lot of ways boil it down very binary. It's either good or it's bad. And similar to you, it's like, okay, a bad partner doesn't do the laundry. A bad partner leaves dishes in the sink. So it's like there will never be a dish in the sink. The laundry will be taken, and it's moving through the world is like trying to check off all of these boxes that I heard along the way of all the ways you show up better. And it's in some ways it's really powerful. And in others, like it's exhausting too. I'm curious for yourself what that journey's been like.
Yeah, I mean, and I think this is something a lot of I'm not gonna. I think a lot of men could be doing more of this, but just in general, it's to treat it such as a binary can be exhausting because it's impossible to clear, and so I wouldn't say to someone like don't do that. It's just, but there also needs to be this underlying acceptance of and no one's perfect. The world is gray, and to get comfortable in that grayness, and I struggle with finding that comfort in the in between, in the unknown, in the space where like you might make a mistake. Where sometimes I get more nervous is like you make a mistake, a low level mistake. It's like whatever the stakes are low, but like if you make that error in the bed, you might actually cause harm, like actual harm in the process, unintentional harm. I mean, I think when we talk about whether it's something you want to call a consent violation, or if you want to talk about like assault, there's a lot of that's intentional and shitty, and that, or it's just people who are not thinking about the other person. And then sometimes it's just like you misread,
Yep.
and then you can get into this whole side tangent we don't got to go down about like intent versus harm, or intent versus impact. But I just try to do my best, and I think the last several years I've been learning to trust myself more and trust where the intentions are, and trust that I think like what I'm doing is right. And then when I find out like I did a bad, whether it's like I forgot someone's birthday, or I didn't clean that thing up, or there was a miscommunication, just like being willing to say, yeah, that was my bad, and how can I learn from it and do better. I think we live in a society where, especially in the very litigious United States, where we see admission of wrongdoing as some sort of big fuck up, as opposed to an opportunity to learn. And that so many guys, like if you hear them talk like around kind of Me Too topics, right? They go, yeah, and it's like, you know what? This would all go so much better if you just say, hey, my bad. What can I do differently? And then analyzing, am I doing this in other places in my life too? Sorry, I just brought in like 4 different heavy topics in like one answer.
No, I mean, I teed you up for it, and I think
the point is the gray area is scary because it's gray, and like, but that's also life, and so we have to find confidence in navigating it, but also like respect how scary it is as we check our steps.
Without a doubt. And just, we don't need to spend the whole time on this. Although I think, I believe, not to exclude Emma, but I believe you and I could probably have a 2-hour conversation about this and not even be close to complete on it. Cause I heard so many things in there that resonated. And just the one that I feel like maybe just hitting really quick is that the difference between, I left a dish in the sink, that's a minor infraction, and something that would be even a quote minor infraction in intimacy in bed, right, during sex, can have a major impact. And so that is a place, I think I caught, is that what you were saying, right? That like, it's maybe just a small thing, but we've learned how broad that impact can be.
Yeah.
And so the difference between dishes and sex, there is a big difference, and you never know what impact it's going to have on somebody. And so you could be like, well, I didn't even do it. It was just a little thing. And like you say, you got to like put down the sword, put down the defense, and just say, well, regardless of how small this infraction was, it had a big impact. And now we get to unpack that and figure out how we can do better.
Yeah, and again, like not focusing on like trying to decide if someone is as upset as they should or shouldn't be.
Yep.
I mean, I had something like end pretty much because I forgot her birthday.
Yep.
And then, sometimes it can be just you tweak the nipple a little too hard, and you don't have to try to figure. It's not about figuring out if you did something bad or not. It's just about like, okay, someone's hurt, and how do we take care of them? Bringing empathy into the bedroom as well as life is always, I think, a good idea, and I think that's brought a lot more fun for me. I mean, I think there are a lot of women who have been more comfortable to hang out, play. Like there are women who maybe don't love casual sex, but yet they wanted to have casual sex with me because they felt they were having better casual sex with me than committed monogamous sex with a boyfriend, because I was giving a shit about their pleasure, their safety, their headspace, whatever.
Yep. Yeah. Well, and what's so fun about this whole conundrum is, right, you end up maybe ending a partnership, or somebody ends a partnership with you because you forgot their birthday. And 6 months later, you could be in a partnership with somebody where you wish them a happy birthday, and they're like, I hate when people wish me my birthday. I want to leave you now because, and you're like, holy cow, like the thing that upset one person is the thing that makes another person happy. And the thing that makes this person happy is that like there's just so much out there. Like you said, it's just, you're swimming in the gray.
Comes down to communication.
Yeah. Fun
and
stuff.
And curiosity about each other, asking each other questions, asking, exploring things about, what do you like? What are you interested in? Those types of things, taking that time to have those conversations.
As you were kind of navigating, and it sounds like maybe still are navigating this world of lots of different connections and partnerships, were there times where you would find yourself having, let's say you tell the person you love them and they're like, hey, I don't want that, but definitely keep coming over and having sex with me. At that point, do you feel like bound to stay in that solely? Or at that point, are you like, okay, well, now I'm going to keep looking? Like, are you at any point like pursuing multiple connections in parallel? Or are you sort of moving in this sort of serial monogamy vibe?
I mean, one, I don't really know what monogamy is. I haven't done that. I did it for 14 months freshman year of college, and that was about it. And also that problem that I described earlier, that was definitely like a college and early 20s problem, right? I don't think it's something I run into as much anymore. Whether partially because I got a little more emotionally regulated and am not saying I love you in something that hasn't even been established as, you know. Woo. There's some I love yous I would take back and say like I'm really into you. But I was like 20.
Lessons learned.
Yeah, I was 22. What the hell did I know? I don't think I run into it as often. If I recognize somebody wants something I don't want, or they don't want what I'm offering, if they haven't expressed a lack of interest at that point, like I might cut things off. I got a situation I just left this morning where I'm thinking like, oh wow, like all right, I think there's gonna have to be another conversation to check in because we haven't fucked yet, and I'm starting to pick up on little hints, little things out here or that are said that make me go, if you knew that I know this is not going to be romantic, would you still want to fuck me? And now I'm thinking like, hey, maybe I got it, especially because this person's been kind of wronged and mistreated by like a lot of men before. So I go like, okay, maybe I shouldn't fuck her. Maybe I should make sure we have this conversation first. So I don't think that problem in particular is that mismatch of intentions is as big a problem as it used to be. I think I can just identify it, and I'm not afraid to like leave a thing. When I was 22, I was still surprised anybody wanted to sleep with me or date me. Yeah. I was so surprised because I'd gone all of high school where that was not really a thing, and where I had really low self-esteem, and so I think there's a little bit more scarcity mindset. And now I swim in sexual abundance headspace, even when I'm not being very sexual. I went about like, I don't know, 10 months to a year recently where like my activity ramped way, way down. Granted, when you're a generally slutty person, you really ramp down. There's a lot of people's like kind of average and normal, and so I sometimes have to check myself on that. But I was really ramped down and trying not to do much with many people. Yeah, so I don't think I freak out as much about it. And I've experienced elements of like what I want. I've been in romantic relationships in the last decade. I think I met like one of those people where it's like I unlocked a hidden level in the video game of life and love, and I only got to play it for a year or so, but I may never get to play that level again. But like I know that's out there. Anyways, like I've got a way more life experience to understand like what I want, what I dig, what type of connections I like. I also can tell when a connection is something that I feel romantic about or I'm going to feel romantic about, and I can tell when like somebody's just going to be like a really, really good friend, and maybe we can be good friends who make each other come. Like this person, that I was hanging out with last night. So I think all that like just gives me more confidence going out there and dating, and I don't fall into those situations where like I stick around for 6 months hoping that they're going to change their mind. I'm far more confident to say, yeah, I don't think this is going to be a good fit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have a nice time.
Yeah. And so, I mean, you've obviously come a long ways since those beginning years. And I'm kind of curious, like, how you got from the scarcity mindset to the abundance mindset. Like, what was that trajectory and that path over the last decade kind of looked like for you? What did it look like for you?
I would love to figure out a way to help somebody find that without having my path, because I see a lot of like these dudes who online it seems like they've given up, or it seems like they've been hurt by a few people, and then also haven't had a lot of experience. So their limited experience has been women who maybe weren't really nice to them or discounted them for some sort of like height or hair or some bullshit reason, right? In a similar way, like where I really empathize with women when I come across them, and like I'm the first guy who just treated them with truly the most bare minimum respect in like a half dozen years. So I could feel from them there. Cause like for me, I got to the abundance mindset just because I was having I had a lot of
abundance.
sex real kind of early and quickly. It to my dismay as well, right? Like I was also shocked. I'm surprised when anyone wants to have sex with me, and so I think just I was able to trust that there's abundance because it was happening. But it's difficult to believe that it's out there if it's not happening. But it's not going to happen if you can't go in and out there with confidence. And possibly that confidence is going to come from having an abundance mindset. I mean, we see this with people like with, money or other sorts of resources where as even if they don't have an abundance, when they can switch their mindset, things seem to start to get a little better. You hold your chest up differently, which attracts people. And so much of it is about like faking it. I think so in the beginning, I was faking confidence until I found the confidence. But because I was faking that confidence, people were drawn to me. And then that kind of started this wheel, this circle where now like I just am sincerely confident. But it did start a little bit of fake it till you make it. And I think that is required in a lot of dating, especially if you don't feel confident about it. I recently went through that like towards the end of last year, earlier this year, because I took such a hiatus where I was like, or I very much ramped down my activity. I don't want to insult anybody. I had a situation. I remember like in college, I like tried to do a story on stage about the only time I had like hired a sex worker, but it was like unintentional, or hired an escort, and it was like unintentional. Like I didn't realize what I ordered right until it got there. And so I would start the story trying to justify why I would at 20, 21 years old hire a full service sex worker. And so I say, well, or like, why would it like get a happy ending massage? I was like, well, I hadn't had sex in 2 months. And I do the story. Next comic, this guy, Brendan Ayer, goes up. He said, Billy, did you say you didn't have sex for 2 months? Fuck you. And that was a dry spell? Fuck you. Like that's, and then here's the thing. When I said 2 months, I was lying. It had been 1 month. I thought I need to exaggerate to make it fine. And I didn't exaggerate enough. So I have to keep that in check. Yeah.
It's all about perspective.
All about perspective. No, re-entering the dating and sex world, even recently, like I had to just kind of fake it a little bit. I wasn't feeling the most confident in my body. Gained a lot of weight since I was really back out here in these streets, and so I was like, "But I gotta go in with confidence, or I shouldn't go at all." Found some confidence a couple Saturdays ago. I went to a play party. It was my first play party in like 5 months, and like made out with 3 total cuties. Because I was being confident. You can choose to be confident. You don't have to be confident to like act confidence.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then I think it's really a chicken egg situation in a lot of ways, right? Because you sort of need a little bit of it to give you the boost to go and reinforce that it's possible. But it is, I don't know. I just chicken egg situation comes to mind, and it's hard because you have to then figure out the balance of how do I sort of fake something? How do I fake confidence without creeping into arrogance or creeping into cockiness? Right. So where is that line? And there's a, to me,
that's that gray area. There is no like distinct line. It's just going to be a vibe you kind of pick up on, and either you're going to realize it because someone's going to tell you in a real harsh way, or you might just pick up on like, whoa, I feel like I might be getting a little too full of myself. Let me pull it back just a little bit. I've definitely gone through that. I've been feeling myself too much.
Yeah.
Well, I think too, one other thing that kind of sticks out to me in this is you seem to also have had some abundance around your friend group being primarily, not maybe all women, but primarily women. And I think there's something that can come along with that where it can help with the abundance, but also help with the understanding that like not every connection has to go to an end goal.
Yeah.
That like, sure, you could be interested, right? Like this friend of mine is like the hottest person I've ever seen, and I'm super attracted to them, but
I assume you're not speaking in first person right now.
I'm speaking hypotheticals.
Standing next to Emma.
Standing next to Emma. Whatever imaginary person is your dream person, but you will only ever be friends. And that is a way to sort of rewrite some of those narratives that I can show up here, I can learn, I can also understand what these people like, and they can also not be for me, which is a really interesting thing. Like I could check all of those boxes and they could still not be interested, which can play into that a bit.
Right. And I think there's a lot of guys who think, oh, here's who I want. And
Mhm.
they treat the who that they want as a what. And just like, say, getting a certain kind of job, they think, okay, here's the goal. Now, here, I just got to do this, and I got to do this, and I got to do this. I got to get that. I got to make this. And then I get that. I get the sex with this person. That's as opposed to like even once considering, is she into me? Or like, do I have what she's offering? And so there's guys who are trying to fit into this box for this person who, one, may not even be interested in, two, like that would then make them this like less authentic version of themselves. Instead of just going, that person's really hot. Gosh, I wish that this made more sense. But like moving on. And like that's okay. I think there's dudes who just can't let go of this bright, shiny object that they've made in their minds. And, you know, it's like that's where I get to like be, you know, bringing authenticity into dating. And like part of authenticity is being able to accept what some would call a defeat. And then also the ability to deny yourself something that you want because it's maybe not, you know, not in the cards.
Yeah. Yeah. As maybe as good as it feels or could be, it's not. And there's no amount of, if I just force it a little harder, it's going to hit that sort of utopia stage. And I think, you know, I guess I just want to make sure too, right? Like this abundance mindset that you're talking about, it is not easy to get to.
Nope.
If you're hanging out there in the desert for, you know, weeks, months, years, decades even, right? Like I haven't had somebody interested in me in many years, and I've tried. I've tried everything. I've been on every app. I've gone to every club. And it's just, there's nobody, right? It's like to be like, well, just be a little more abundance mindset. It'll be good. Like,
yeah. It's also easy for me to say in like New York City, one of the most densely populated like parts of the country, right? Like it becomes a different situation here. But I do think that like that is what helped get me through this period of time where I just knew I needed to ramp down. I was feeling less sexual, but also not letting that rob me. When I started getting back in, I didn't start thinking like, oh gosh, like, is anyone going to be into me? Because I know they will be. And like, it's okay if I take a year off of fucking for the most part, or sorry, if I ramp down my sex life, it's okay. It'll be there when I get back. But if it wasn't there to begin with, it can be hard to have that trust. Yeah, no, I get it. It's definitely not easy. And like my scarcity, before people think like, oh, this dude's just been fucking the whole time. It's like, look, all of high school, I was told I was going to be a 40-year-old virgin. Did not know how to talk to girls. I wrote a lot of love poetry. Got really good at it. Did not get me anything back. Gosh, I got a love poem. I remember junior year of high school, I went to a boarding school, and I submitted a love poem that I gave this chick. I gave it to the paper, and they put it in the little school paper. And I went to breakfast one morning, and her friend Amanda comes up to me. She's like, Billy, your words to her like took our breath away. I was like, oh wow, does she want to like think she wants to like get ice cream or something? And she was like, oh no, that's not gonna happen. But we just wanted you to know that like you're good with the writing. Like, I mean, it was nothing but that all of high school. And then you know, college freshman year probably was a little easier just because like I happened to have like I had met a girl the summer before, so like I had a girlfriend, and so we weren't being super non-monogamous or nothing, so it wasn't like I was worried about it then. Also, you know, by the way, all this abundance and stuff, like, I mean, some of this can get weird when you talk about non-monogamy because there are some, like, you know, we know there's a lot of poly pockets who they treat the whole thing like it's Pokemon, and they kind of, and when we get to that cockiness, arrogance versus confidence, it's like sometimes you forget what's important to you or who's important to you because you're too busy picking up new partners and be like, oh my God, I got this match. Like, and you have 6 nights of your week all have date nights with different people, and if you have like a primary partner of some sort, gosh, like you sometimes people start neglecting the original person because they're just caught up with all these shiny objects, and it's kind of you want to check yourself on that before that person who's most important to you, allegedly, right, if that's how you structure your relationships, before they harshly remind you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think too, what's so interesting in there, what can happen is I mean, I often talk about the pendulum, and you know, you could see somebody coming from that scarcity place. And if you can tip the scale, sort of, so to speak, again, a lot of this is just, somewhat binary language, but you tip the scale to the abundance starts to roll in. And then it's really exciting to be like, woo, yeah, like you said, collect it all. Like I've been out here in the desert dying of thirst, and now I have all of this water. I'm going to drink until I puke, right? And then you have to find a way to bring the pendulum back the other direction. It sounds like a little bit of what you did in your year of ramping down, or your mode of ramping down.
Yeah, and I'm catching it right now because like out of nowhere, didn't intend it. I've only probably been back out trying the date over the last like month, maybe 2, and I accidentally have like 5 nights this week where I have a date, and I was like, God, that's not supposed to happen. You know, it's like that's how the schedules need to work out for them. But like I gotta, woo, and then that also comes with, oh gosh, do I need to pare down, you know, some people, and because it means like, oh, maybe I don't have time to give this person the attention that they deserve or that they want, et cetera, et cetera. It's like about like, oh, I could keep it. I think I saw like some big article about benching, one of those terms that people love to make up so they can get a viral article. And it's like you don't want to just keep a lot of people very loosely and mind fucking them just so you keep having access to sex and attention or emotion or whatever. Sometimes you have to just say, like, be able to be an adult enough to say, hey, I don't know if I can offer you very much right now. I don't know if I'm going to have more than a night in a month for you, and you may not. So like maybe we should put this on ice, or maybe we should just, you know, say it was great meeting you and hopefully we cross paths again. But I think a lot of people, they don't want to deny themselves stuff, so they just keep a lot of people dangling, which, you know, is not fun when you're on the other end of that.
Yeah.
Well, and there's a beautiful opportunity there to say, I could maybe only do this with you once a month. And they go, I'm so glad you said that. That's about all I've got too. I've been trying to see you every week and it's been killing me, but once a month is perfect.
Yeah. Right? There's the opportunity to really talk about what the actual capacity of each of you is at this moment, and that can ebb and flow over life too. And that may change in the future. But like right now, this is the way we can fit into each other's lives, or not. This is the way this is what I have. This is what you have. It's not compatible at this time.
Yeah. There's some, I was talking to somebody recently about how there's a woman who, like, my desire to play with her, we've talked about hooking up, and but it's been in the context of sex parties. We met at a sex party. We don't have each other's phone numbers. We talked about a scene that we would want to do at a sex party. She's like expressed certain interest in fucking me. Okay. But like, I don't really have an interest to make that time and space outside of the party. Just my level of interest kind of caps off with this person here. And then it's a matter of like, okay, well then can I tell her like, look, I see us totally having fun at a party. I just don't know if like I'm gonna have time for, you know, I just don't know like how much I'm gonna be able to give you outside of that, which is difficult because now I'm right now like having conversations with a couple of friends because I don't want to like say it in the most dickish way to her. I'm trying to figure out like the best way to share that sentiment, and maybe she feels a similar way, maybe not. But I think people don't want to ever like explore those conversations because they're like worried about hurting people, or they're worried that they'll lose options. Like Emma, like you said, like you might share that and they say, actually, same, great. But they also might, you know, it also might cut off entirely.
Yeah. I'm also curious, Billy, you've mentioned like this ramping down for the last like little bit of time. And I'm curious, like what your motivations were for that, if you're open to sharing.
Yeah, sure. By the way, I'm not always, I feel like I've got this like binary fucking modes. It's like I can go deep and heavy and we can like talk fucking theory, or we can do like glory hole stories. And it's like, gosh, I wish I had more of an in-between mode.
We're finding it.
Yeah, we're good. The pendulum's just rocking to both sides and it's all good. I think there's a lot of gray in here, to be honest. So
I mean, yeah. Well, I am also glad this isn't an hour on gangbangs. I did a 2 podcasts recently, and both of them were just like the whole time they're like, "Tell us about gangbangs." I'm like, that's not even my kink. It's just a thing. It's just something I'm good at arranging if somebody wants it. But maybe this will fall in the middle. I had a really bad breakup almost like 2 years ago. This is the person I refer to as like kind of like that secret level in the game. I feel childish saying like love at first sight, but it was one of those things where like I left the first date where we got coffee and I was walking away and I said to myself like, oh, I'm in trouble. because like I'm gonna fall hard for this person. And it was also, she had not had experience with non-monogamy, so I already knew that was going to like right there be its own issue. And so the relationship ended, and yeah, I was being sexual for like the next whatever amount of time, but I also started smoking so much more pot, and I became like very daily. And then I was like daily, but like starting in the day. And that really can kill your sex drive. I mean, like it killed my sex drive. Sex feels great on weed, but like my desire to go towards sex dies with weed. So it's like if you call me if you hit me up at midnight and say like, hey, want to fuck, and I already smoked, not a chance I'm leaving my place. But if we met up together and then we smoke together, then I can enjoy like the awesome sensations that marijuana can like bring to sex. So I think with all of that, and like just really deeply missing her, and then a couple of like, oh, maybe we're gonna get back. Okay, no. Hey, I'm gonna swing the bat again. No. So I just started to like not. I started being really scared of connecting, and the sex I like to have is connected sex. So I actually, a lot of the experiences I had, I stopped fucking, like having PIV sex as much, but I would like give a lot of oral because my like my dick doesn't have to be hard for that. And I don't have to worry about like, hey, am I feeling connected enough that my cock's gonna like behave the way I want to when I want to? But you know what? Like I can do this really fun, like sexy activity that's gonna make her feel really good. And a lot of times, they're not terribly disappointed if they don't get laid, but they got off a couple times. Good consolation prize. And but I didn't want to like connect with people as much, so I just stopped trying to. I just started listening to my body. My body was telling me, I don't know that we really want to be a big old hoe right now. And eventually I had to just accept, I'm not going to keep trying to be a big hoe right now. I'm going to let myself not. And I trusted that was going to come back. And I trusted like there will be women interested in me when I get over this phase. But yeah, it was just like a lot of heartbreak and then a lot of pot, which killed a lot of my drive. So that was why I started ramping down.
Yeah.
And so like at that point, it's like then I'm having sex like once or twice every 2 or 3 months rather than, how often I was doing it before that.
Yep. Fair enough. Well, I really appreciate you sharing that. And I think I'd love to switch to just strictly talking about gangbangs for like the next day. No,
it's like we can do it.
No.
Apparently, I have a book to write. I wrote like almost 3,000 words on how to throw a gangbang for Mashable, and then they killed it. They fully paid me. They fully edited it, and my editor was fully on board. But the editor in chief was just like, "Is there a different word for gangbang?" And I'm just like, "I'll look around." Couldn't find one. All the alternatives were something else and didn't totally fit with what I wrote. So it was like, this is really the only word. I'm sorry. And they said, keep the money, keep the article. We're not publishing it. But now I just have like 3,000 words on how to throw a gangbang, just like chilling.
Well, I will say we've walked ourselves into a pickle here because I was joking, but now I have an actual answer to this question because we back, I'm going to throw a number out there. I don't know if it's right. Episode 38. We talked to some friends of ours
in the 30s,
way back, Abby and Justin, and she has a word that, well, I guess more than one word. A cocks galore was her rebranding because she did not like calling it a gangbang, so she would throw herself cocks galore parties.
But yeah, I don't know if Mashable is going to get like on board with that in the headline either.
I understand. I'm just offering alternative solutions. So.
Yeah. No, I'm definitely open to like other words, I guess, sound less aggressive. But at the same time, have you ever been to a gangbang? They're a little aggressive, and they're aggressive because that center star wants it to be. And at the end of the day, like this is supposed to be about giving the center star what they want.
Yeah.
And what they want is be, handled by a bunch of people. So
yeah.
That's what it is.
So my real detour was actually going to be different than that, but
no, do tell.
Is a curiosity, right, around a few different things you've said, and these are I just not a challenge in any way. It's a curiosity because I can hear people. I hear the greater world throw these things out and accuse people of things. So you've said a lot of things like a big hoe, slutty, people have called you a man whore, all of these things, but you're also like, well, I really love connected sex. I've hooked up with lots of people. Then you say, well, they're not, I partnered with somebody or I was falling in love with somebody who wasn't non-monogamous. And I hear just people in all of these places going, well, slutty people aren't non-monogamous.
How can all of this exist at once?
How can you want all of these?
Because humans don't exist in a bunch of labels. Like, am I feeling more tendencies that I hear described by demisexual people? Sure. I'm still definitely physically capable of having fun sex that isn't super connected or emotionally driven. I just find that it's not as good as this type of sex over here. But I also feel like I don't need like a flag. I don't need like my part in a march for this like hyper specific description of how I connect with people. It's like, okay, if you like having emotional connections, that's just, you can just say that. You don't have to like say a word that you then have to describe, that you then have to define to somebody. You could just say, I really like having sex when I've like established an emotional connection with someone. And that's easy. These things can all exist at once because like, people don't always boil down to labels or certain words, and they don't fit them all the time. I mean, you'll talk to asexual people and like you got a whole different like category of no sexual desire, but then they're like, well, some sexual desire, and then they realize, oh fuck, we should come up with a whole nother word for the aces who also sometimes, okay, well now we got this gray sexual word. And I'm like, at some point this stops being really useful in communication when you could just say how you feel, what you like, when you like it, how you like it. I don't think it needs anyways. So it all is at once because like my desires can fluctuate. We see this with women a lot, right? Like, in the parts of their life where they can, are experiencing higher or lower libidos. It's all just be yourself. I don't know. So how do all those things exist at once? Because that's who I am. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. Spot on. You are correct about your own self. Again, like I said, it wasn't a challenge.
No, like labels are a starting point. I think we kind of knew the answer to the question before asking. Like labels are a starting point. We're all human. We all can have all of these different pieces of ourselves and be exploring different pieces at different parts of our lives.
Yeah. I think also like where because y'all are like in my age range and everything. So when we were younger, the labels there were far fewer of them, and they were things that kind of a little bit more like real clear, right? The sexual orientation and gender and like race, like these were things that like you were born, like we were kind of part of this thing where acceptance was about accepting people for being born in a way that they had zero control over, right? And I think descriptions we just got, there's a lot more like options and things to describe yourself, and it's just been hard to take in and all. You're right. Yeah. Labels can be a starting off point for like having conversations or just for self-discovery. But I think some people can get really rigid on those, especially when they're things that like aren't necessarily like, this is how I was a hashtag born this way type of thing, because you're going to enter different parts of your life. You're going to feel differently. And I think some people just get really rigid and resist their natural impulses or desires because they're like, but that's going to cause an identity crisis. So what if you don't make certain things your entire fucking identity? I mean, non-monogamous, I made part of my identity so hard that I think I lost a relationship that could have still been non-monogamous in a different way, but I lost it because I felt I was grasping onto an identity marker as opposed to a way I was doing relationships. And I don't know, that it just that broke me real bad, because I think back to one conversation we had where she expressed a certain way, maybe we could do it this way, and I was so resistant to it because I wasn't collaborating on how to tackle a relationship model. I was grasping onto an identity that I really didn't fucking have to, and I lost the one like the really the one person where I go like, that's one person I really shouldn't lose.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe there's a little bit of that at play in that. But I also don't begrudge people who have labels that they make them more comfortable and make them feel seen. Like, do what you want to do. I'm not here. I don't rail against the people with another flag. I just go like, I don't find that I need that. Mm-hmm. I can just say what I need to express.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's sort of kind of touching on what you shared there, like, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, we had less labels. I think everybody was still just as complicated, right? We were all of the shades of gray, but we had fewer words for it.
Yeah, the puppy play people, they were still there. They were out there.
Yeah.
It's not like it showed up out of nowhere. And then now we need to have some words for it. It's like they just said what they were into, or they hid it from their partner for forever. Like one of those two things would happen.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, right. And now we have landed in some ways in a world where somebody they go, well, I most closely identify with, I'm not trying to exclude or pick anybody or zero anybody out, but like, I'm polyamorous. And then they tell somebody they're polyamorous, and then they tell one of their partners that they just hooked up with somebody, and they go, well, that's not polyamory. And they go, okay, well, I guess I'm not polyamorous anymore. And so now what am I? I have to find a new label instead of being like, well, I'm a person who has a partnership here and this partnership, and I have a cool connection here. And last night I hooked up with somebody, and maybe next week I will too. That's me.
And the way that people are overusing words and misusing them so much that they stop losing meaning. So now if you say poly to someone, you say poly to another person, like they might be talking about totally different things instead of just saying like, what their deal is. I mean, I also like feel weird calling myself polyamorous because I haven't done a lot of like quote unquote poly. I've done a lot of non-monogamy. My first real polyamorous relationship was 2019 to 2021 because she already had a boyfriend she was living with at the time. Right. I didn't have another girlfriend. I believe I have the capacity for that. I just haven't experienced it yet. So I actually go, I just say non-monogamous because I get worried about calling myself poly. I don't want to have to get into a fight with someone about who I am. I don't know. Here's my hot take. Here's a label hot take. I want to make, can I make you nervous for a moment? Here's my hot label take. Non-monogamy and monogamy are a binary. You are monogamous or non-monogamous. Mm-hmm. Non-monogamy is a spectrum and can look like infinite different ways, but monogamy really only looks one way. And so if you have that like occasional threesome, like for your wedding anniversary, and you only do that once a year, guess what? You're part of the club. That's my hot take. Is a lot of people who say they're monogamous actually aren't. And I think they need to get on board with who they are and how they do their relationships. Because I think that when people realize there's more of us than previously defined, maybe they'll start fucking treating our shit with a little more respect.
I love it. And it's fun. What's kind of fun about it to me is it almost flies in the face of everything we just said of you could define monogamy in your own way. We are monogamous.
But that's one where I go like, no, you can't. That one's very specific. It's defined by we don't have sex with other people. So as soon as you have sex with other people, you're not doing the thing. Welcome to the club. Here's a key to the bathroom. Please put the toilet seat back down.
That's right. Yeah, I'm truly by definition. Yeah.
By definition, yeah, for sure. I think we've talked to people who use the term monogamish, right?
I hate that term. I am sorry, Daddy Dan, but I do not love the word. I think it allows people to be wishy-washy. It allows people to dip their toe in a world that does get, I don't want to use the word persecuted, but discriminated against. Does not have legal protections. It's your way of saying I'm not really part of that. I'm part of it until it becomes inconvenient to my life, and then no, I'm monogamous. I'm normal. I'm part of the default standard. I think it gives people a space to enjoy the benefits and not have any skin in that game. Kind of similar to how like Republican swingers, I go like you can't support anti-queer politicians if you're out there doing your swinger life, because the people who fucking laid down to make swinging a somewhat acceptable, thing to do underneath this big sex positive umbrella was led by queer people, then you can't go vote against them also.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like you can't indulge it's very white. It's very, I don't know. It feels like a thing that's like, oh no, I like having cornrows, but like he shouldn't have resisted arrest. Like you can't enjoy the bennies without getting in the game. At least I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Very fair.
It's also okay if y'all don't agree.
No, it's one of those that I think, I see the people who can go and say, we do this, on once a year, we go on a vacation and we let our hair down and have a great time. And the rest of our lives, we are we look just like everybody else in the neighborhood because that's what we need to do to keep our lives together.
Maybe it's like functional monogamy.
Sure.
Yeah,
sure.
socially monogamous. People may think you are, but like at the end of the day, it's like at least know for yourself.
Yeah.
So that way you don't like. It's a way to catch yourself of like, oh, if you only do that like once a year, y'all go to fucking hedonism and let your hair down. Okay, and you don't want like everyone to know about that. That's okay, but then hopefully that will like check yourself before you say some shit like, I don't know, just like slut shame the people who are doing it a little bit more openly.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's the point that you can really call yourself whatever. You don't need to have a flag on your porch. You don't need to have 7 flags on your porch to let everybody know the upside down pineapple or whatever, thing of the day is. But yeah, for your internal sort of clock to say, what we are doing is sort of, it is not strict monogamy, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I also have a ton of compassion for the amount of shame that we are that is layered upon us. So to be able to say, I can't even face the fact that I would be part of this other label because of my own shit or my own upbringing or all of the ways that society. So like, it's this really tricky place where there's like a ton of empathy and compassion, and there's the frustration that like, yeah, if you could get out from that and join the march, quote unquote, join the march that we even said earlier, you don't need to be out there marching, but like, if you could be part of it, there would be more visibility and maybe it wouldn't have so much shame. But like, that's like the fucking thing about shame, is it forces us to perpetuate it.
Well, and to your point, I think like there are a lot more people out there that are somewhere on that non-monogamy spectrum than really like are talked about, or that we'll talk about it. I'm also curious, Billy, like at this stage in your life right now, how would you design your relationship structure if you could?
I think it partially depends on the who or the who's who are involved, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to have sex with one person for the rest of my life. I'm finding, especially after the humbling experience I had with that last relationship, that I think I'm less rigidly attached to some sort of like really expansive model, and that if somebody needs to do things in a tighter window, I can do that. I don't think I want to be someone's first non-monogamous boyfriend again. I don't think I've done it. I've done it like once or twice, and it's just, I don't think it's for me. I think it's because like also like I may not be evolved, like I may not be capable to be that takes like an extra level of care that like maybe I just don't have the capacity or want to do right now. But like ideally, I've got someone who's like an A1. I'm a little hierarchical in that way. There also could be a couple of ones who are like that, but I want love. I miss that. I miss intimacy. I've got like an intimacy fetish. I feel like, I have after not this my COVID era relationship, the poly woman who had the other partner. Mm-hmm. After we broke up, everyone's broken up, by the way. Everyone, none of the three of us are together anymore. But after we broke up, like I remember I connected with someone on Bumble. We had one little like virtual date. This was like shortly before I think I got vaccinated, and she was waiting to get vaccinated. It was like very early, and so after some talking, like the connection was very strong. It was that like early first date, strong chemistry, but there's a combination of things of like she hadn't been dating a lot. I had just gone through this breakup where the intimacy had been lacking towards the end of it. And hadn't been like super sexually active. So like our STI statuses were like of a cleared nature. And we kind of decided to do what I think I have called love play. And like, we just decided like for one night, we built a container where it's like, we're just going to be a little emotionally irresponsible. We're going to say things you don't normally say to someone on a first date. We're going to just both like really just like melt into comfort as a choice. And we're going to have like both hot, wild, passionate sex and like really kind of deep, loving sex. And like we said I love yous to each other. It was wild. And like I had her come do the podcast like a year or two later. Wild episode, like reconnecting to explore like what was that about. We did this like really wild thing for a night. I left the next day, like neither of us were worried the other one was actually in love with each other. We just like allowed ourselves to experience love for 12, 14, 15 hours or something like that. It was great. Also not something I think I would ever repeat again, because that's too risky. It's like, how, no way that's going to hit twice. But what I'm looking for is I'm looking for love. I'm looking for, I want someone who I'm going to die next to 40 years from now, 50 if I like eat better. That's what I'm looking for, and that's what something I thought I had with this last woman, and then I think I messed up a little bit. I was a little too rigid about the freedom. It was interesting. I was too rigid about the freedom desired.
Yeah.
And I realized that,
it also just seems like you had this vision for yourself and you had a really hard time letting that go.
Yeah. That's exactly it.
Yeah.
Well, you go. Sorry.
No, please.
Well, it sounded like you were also stuck in the label in some ways, is what you kind of said. Like, I am this thing, therefore don't box me in, which is ironic because you were boxing yourself into a label. Like, it's such a weird paradox.
Yeah. I kick myself about it often still.
Yeah.
And right now what I want is that chemistry, that connection, and I think priority. I want to feel prioritized in someone's life. So to be someone's like a secondary partner is not like out of the question, but I just don't know like how deep I'm going to let my feelings go there.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, I might meet someone in that exact situation, and then that connection, just maybe that's the path that brings me down too. So again, I don't want to also box in to be like, I'll never do this. But one of the few things I feel like I know is that I probably won't want to be someone's like first non-monogamous relationship, because that's just really tough. That's really tough. And I don't know if I should be that for someone.
Yeah.
There's also something I talked about with Emily Matlack about this too, because now she's single, she's going back out here, and she just did this like monogamous relationship. Now she's out of it, and and she was poly before that, right? Obviously, with multi-amory, and so it was, something I'd asked her about, because it's something I struggled with in that last relationship, was when you are literally kind of an expert. Even if you don't want to call yourself an expert, you do have a book that I have here, and your name's in the byline. You wrote a book on the topic. You kind of are responsible for a knowledge of it to a certain extent. If you start dating someone who has less experience with non-monogamy, it's like, how do you check yourself to be like, am I like, because then it's too easy to railroad an argument or a discussion, because it's like, it's not like, oh, I think I know better. It's like, you kind of do know better, but you can also get blinded by that for the practical application in that relationship. And that was something that we had discussed when I had her on when I was visiting LA a couple months back, and it's because it's something I know I struggled with was, well, I know better because like I've been doing this for a long time, or like I've read these books, I've interviewed these people, and so if you have it, and I don't know if I'll have the humility to like do that better if it's someone's first time with it. It's easier when someone's experienced to not like, if someone's a 7 on the experience scale and the other one's a 6.5, it's a little too tight to like for someone to get too big for their britches on it. But someone's brand new and you're like over here at an 8 with experience, it's so that's definitely that's I think part of the reason why like I shouldn't be someone's first, because I might not be humble enough. I like that. I also like it's hard. Yeah, it's harder to like condescend by accident or to railroad a conversation if we're a little bit more equal in that.
Yeah. Well, and what's interesting about it, I think there's like the flip side of that argument one could make is, well, you're positioned perfectly to be able to be somebody's guide because you have so much knowledge and you have all of these things, and you could be there for them in a way that maybe, two new people are going to just be like, fucking each other up in some ways, but that's also like that's the personal choice. Like that's not a thing I have the capacity to do. I'm not in that place or I don't even feel comfortable with it. And
I'd agree with you if I had more humility, if I trusted that like in a tense moment, I'm not going to accidentally try to pull rank, like almost like impulsively, where like I don't even, I think I could be good for someone who is in their first non-monogamous relationship, but I'm like a lover of theirs.
Sure.
That I think great for that.
Yeah.
I think I'm good there.
Yeah. No, I wasn't trying to coax you into it. It was just, I think it is.
I appreciated your faith in me. And I am always the first one to say, believe in me less. Don't. They're like, I really like you. You're really nice. Give it time. I'll fuck that up.
Right. Well, I think what's beautiful about that, though, too, Billy, is that part of that is knowing you've walked in those person's shoes. Obviously, not exactly, but you've been there. You've been in your first non-monogamous dynamic. You've done it. So you kind of know, but it's also really hard to look back a decade or more later and go, you can't see this. I can see it. You can't see it. I really want to do something. Like there's two people in the dynamic, and you've got to take care of yourself. And it sounds like you're also showing up caring about the other person. Like, I could see how you might think this would be great. I could show you the light, but I know I'm going to fuck it up and I'm going to make you feel like a piece of shit because I'm going to say something and it's not good. So like, that's also a thing we learn along the way.
Yeah. And for the record, for anyone listening, a lot of times I'm normally I do funny things, despite the depth of the conversation today.
Well, then how about we go funny for a moment?
Yeah,
we can do that.
That's okay. I'm comfortable in the depth. I'm just like, I'm uncomfortable with the judgment. Like, I thought they said this guy was a comedian. He just seems really sad. I don't know if that counts as a comedian.
There's different sides of each of us.
That's
yes. Multitudes and stuff.
We're full humans.
Yeah.
From old school Polly Daddy Walt Whitman.
Well, then let's give you a moment to shine from the funny side, because one of our favorite questions that we've been asking since the very, very beginning is for people to share one or a couple of their favorite bloopers, things that have gone wrong over the years, to kind of show that as much as we try, as much as we want to show up and be our best selves, we still goof up. It's still hilarious, and we can laugh at ourselves. Maybe not in the moment, hopefully in the moment, but definitely later.
I feel like the bloopers I make are like big. I feel like they're the things that like we get into a big fight over. Whereas in sex, bloopers are fun. It's like, I feel like anytime someone says like, what's a funny thing that happened during sex? And I think sex can be really fun and funny. I love laughing during sex.
Yep.
I love it when I have that level of comfort with a partner where we can like pause while I'm inside you and like fucking giggle. Mm-hmm. But then there's stuff where you just go like, I mean, I remember I was sleeping with someone for a little bit from Bumble. It was pre-COVID, and she was I was doing her. It was the last time we were going to see each other. She was moving to a whole other city. This was our last fuck together, and she's in doggy, and I looked down at one point, and I'm not like spreading her cheeks or nothing, but like creeping out of her butt crack was like a whole ass morsel of poop. I didn't touch her butthole at all. I didn't touch nothing. It was just so clear, like, didn't wipe fully, or like, I don't know, maybe sun came out at another time, and when we took the panties off, maybe it creeped up, but like, it was like creeping out the crack. It's like, I don't know if you've ever seen like some sort of like scary movie with dead skeleton bodies, and one's like reaching an arm out of the coffin, the little opening of the coffin. It was like that, but it was poop. And I'm fucking her, and I don't know if I'm supposed to stop and say something. We don't have that kind of intimacy because like, I know if I say something, I'm like, I think I'm going to fuck up her day. Like, I'll leave here, and it was like 4 PM. It's too early for your day to be ruined. So I didn't want to like say something. Then she gets so self-conscious and it ends. And it's like, okay, well, enjoy the move. And then the rest of the day is her packing boxes, being like, I can't believe I didn't wipe myself properly. So I just finished, didn't tell her. I was like, oh, okay, bye. And oh man, I could smell it too. It was just coming up. It was wafting up into my nostrils. And like, against all odds, I came. I'm not a monster. I came, and we said goodbye. And I never know if we never talked after that. So I have no idea if like after I left, she discovered that, put 2 and 2 together, and no idea. But that was a time where like because remember, comedian, there's also an element of don't make a stupid fucking joke right now, Billy. Do not. I am thrusting and reminding myself to like hold it in. Don't say some silly line, you fuckwad. I know you're writing jokes right now and you're fucking. I've respected that. I've never like written a proper joke on it. That's why this story is not tight and full of beats. But like, gosh, did I want to? That's not very vulnerable because it's certainly not like a blooper I made in bed. But that's always the first one that comes to mind. When that happens, a funnier blooper would be the other day I got ghosted by a glory hole. Yeah, let's do that. That's fresh.
Do explain.
Fresh. Yeah, let's go there. But I just want to say really quick on the previous example, because this actually takes one of my so one of the questions we ask often on our like virtual events. We'll ask questions and give people a chance to talk about them as a group. One of them is, what is your favorite question, like your first date question to ask somebody? And I don't have a lot of experience going on first dates at this point in my journey, but the question that comes to mind for me is, if we're at dinner and you have food stuck in your teeth, do you want me to tell you, or do you want to find it on your own later? And I feel like you have just implanted a new greatest fear in my life that is now like maybe a third date question. If this is happening, would you prefer me to make jokes, not talk about it, tell you about it? So now I have to ponder this one. So thank you, Billy, for adding a nightmare into my life. I appreciate you. Anytime.
That's what I'm here for. Yes, I got ghosted by a glory hole a couple days ago. Someone on the apps. I know glory holes. They're out here. They're real, and people do them. Frankly, women seem to do them if they feel safe and horny enough. Like, so I connected with this chick who lived a few subway stops away. We get to the point where like I've got the address. Text me when you're 5 minutes away so I can give you the instructions and the apartment number and whatever. I let her know when I'm on the train. I let her know when I get off at my subway stop. And when I get off at the subway stop, I get it like, oh shit, my mom came home, which first begged the question of like, how old are you? I thought, but she's like, yeah, hold on. Like, I'll get right back to you. Let me just see what's up. And then like, I walked to the address area and I went around the corner. I said, hey, like I'm hanging around the corner. Let me know what's going on. And it was a little chilly. And I just spent like 10, 15 minutes outside of a building waiting for a message that truly never came. Eventually I said like, hey, look, I walked back to the subway and then she unmatched me and like blocked. And I was like, made me put pants on and come travel. How dare you? I could have came on my floor like the animal that I am, and you made me put my dick down. One of the most difficult things to do is when you got a good stroke going. I don't want to stop. You made me wash my hands. I had to put the dick down, wash all this coconut oil off. I gotta get I had to give you a complimentary whore's bath. I had to jump in the shower, not full shower, just enough to get the crease under the balls. Make sure the shaft is. I don't know if she's got a coconut allergy. All right, you don't need someone to have an anaphylactic shock on the other side of a curtain. That's a little. That might put me off of glory holes to the end of it. And then put pants on and get on that subway. And they say that the crime is down in New York, but it seems there's a lot of shootings going on the train. And then I get there and you just, folks, I don't care. You can say, hey, lost interest. Hey, I'm out. Just give one. Just don't make me have to stand outside. I looked so creepy hanging around this building, like waiting to know. And people looking at me like, do you need? No, I'm just waiting to see if we can get my dick sucked. I'm just waiting for an apartment number. I'm sorry. I know.
But her mom came home.
Yeah, her mom came home. And then I was like, what? Okay. Anyways, it felt weird. And I haven't fully processed. I don't think I've told anybody this story yet. I've just been trying to deal with the emotions of like, wow, like I got led straight to, ghosted by a glory hole. Happened a long time. It's at least better than the time where like I get to the glory hole and it's supposed to be this couple. This is forever ago. And then like I stick my dick in the video booth because they were like, yeah, I'm going to be in there. Great. I go in, I put the money into the machine and I'm feeling a blowjob. I'm like, this is great. And then I get an email on my phone like a couple minutes into it saying like, oh shit, hey, the dog totally like diarrhea on this rug that we have. We've been cleaning up. I'm so sorry. we can still make it there in like 10 minutes if you'd like. And I'm like, who's sucking my dick right now? I had to back away.
And then if you're lucky, you can bring it full circle and be like, well, it was the girl's mom. And
This girl, wouldn't that be nice? Wouldn't that be nice? It sadly was not. It felt like the person who comes over to fix their sink when I sat down and briefly saw through the hole and tried to black out that memory for a few years.
Well, I'm glad we could be here for you to relive it.
Yes.
Thank you.
and to
that.
share everything else. I was waiting for that when you told the story about getting ghosted. I was like, she's going to say like, hey, sorry, my mom came over. Do you mind if there's two of us here? Because like that's the situation we're in now.
Dreams, right? We can all dream.
Well, Billy, thank you for coming on today. Please, if you can, share a little bit more about how people can find your work, what they can expect. I know you touched on it earlier, but yeah,
sure.
Give us a little plug for your work, and then if there's anything else you want to get out into the world today, while you have yet another microphone in front of your face.
Yeah. No, please come check out my show, the Manwhore Podcast. You can find it wherever you are listening to this show right now. You can, and from there you'll find all the social media and such. If you live in the greater New York City area, we do a naked comedy show, but links in all those bios. You can sign up for updates. And then lastly, if you're looking for more online sex positive community, I have a Discord server called the Champagne Room. You don't even have to like my podcast. You don't got to listen to it at all. It's not a Manwhore podcast server. It's a server of sex positive people who make friends. So we've got channels about, sex toy recommendations and sex stories, but we also have channels about like parenting and music and wellness. So it's just like a really nice community to come be a part of. And you can join us for free at manwhorepod.com/Discord.
Perfect. And links will be in the show notes for anybody who wants to find all of your work.
Beautiful.
We'll be there.
Yeah. Thank you so much for everything today, Billy. It was wonderful to talk to you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you want to shout out there into the world today to the people listening?
69ing is not overrated, and I'm not going to explain myself.
Valid.
Yeah.
All right. Well, with that, hopefully people come see you in person. I'm excited the next time we're in New York City to make that happen, because that sounds like a really great time.
Yes.
And yeah, thank you again for being here.
Fantastic. And let me know when you're in town. Can't wait to have you on the Manwhore podcast as well.
Perfect.
And we are back. Thank you again, Billy, for everything that you shared and for all the work that you do as well. A quick reminder, go and check out Billy's podcast, the Manwhore Podcast. He's been hosting it for over a decade. Links are in the show notes.
And if you're in New York City,
go check out his stand-up.
Get your naked ass to his naked stand-up. It's clothing optional for the audience as well. So I highly recommend checking this out. I promise you, when we're in New York City next, we're going to make it happen, because I think this would be super hella fun.
It would be fun.
So we're coming to see you, Billy. And again, hope you all go check out the information to join as well.
A few quick reminders before we let you go. Next week, July 15th to the 21st, is the week of visibility for non-monogamy. We are hosting a free workshop on Wednesday, July 17th at 5 p.m. Pacific. You can join using the banner on our website for free at normalizingnonmonogamy.com. The workshop is titled, Is There a Right Way to Do Non-Monogamy?
You don't want to miss it.
No. And the other date we wanted to remind you all, I got excited.
I see that. Just blew right by my statement. Like, no.
The other date we wanted to remind you all is September 13th to the 15th, 2024. We will be hosting an in-person community retreat that is a retreat for our virtual community, only in person. You can join our virtual community and come join us by going to the community tab of our website and finding out a lot more there.
Which, by the way, that's all happening here in the San Francisco Bay Area.
Yes.
All right. Next week, we have an interview for you on Wednesday. We're talking to Sandy.
Yes.
Amazing conversation. Sandy's a friend of ours. We get to hang out with her every once in a while here in the Bay Area.
She's awesome.
We happen to we have this thing where we go to events, we don't know she's going to be there, and then we're like, oh my God, it's Sandy. And we get hugs, and then we do it again like a month later. And
It
it's
seems
just
to
sort of,
happen a lot.
it just seems to happen on repeat. And so, yeah, it's amazing. And her story is amazing. And you should come back next week.
And a quick reminder, send us your questions on compersion for the Ask Us Anything episode that will be later this month. And I think that's it.
That's all she wrote today.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for listening.